Hello, this is Jan from the Fuzzy Duckling, bringing you our last project for this month for If Fishes Were Wishes. And today we're going to make a bookmark called String of Fishes. This string of fishies we have here. Let me show you how it will look in a book. It will clip into the back of a notebook or a school book or a calendar. Open up your book and mark your pages. Just that easy. This is our string of fishes, and this is what we are going to make for our project today. Aren't they cute? I just think they're just darling. So let's get at it. Now, to make your string of fish, there are several things you will need. So let's go over those real quickly. You can either draw your own fish. And since you've learned how to draw fish, if you've done some of our other projects, that is a great way to go. But if you'd rather just have them pre-drawn so you can get right at making your string of fish bookmark, you can download some fish that have already been drawn for you. Now let me explain this real quick. You will find your set of instruction sheets have fish pointing two directions. The top sheet, they're going to be pointing towards your left. And in the second sheet, they are pointing towards the right. And there's a reason for that. If you want to have a fish that you have this drawing on both sides of it, you will need a fish going the opposite way because you're going to paste this fish onto the back of this fish. So if you plan on doing that, you'll want to color fish, one each going each way, the same color. That is if you want both sides of your fish to look the same. Or you can just take one side of the fish, color it however you want to, and then you could back it with decorative papers. Something like this. I've backed one of mine with this, or something like this. Oh, these are scrapbooking papers, but you can find pretty papers all over. Even wrapping paper is pretty. You can find pretty papers just about any place anymore. So, when you color on this, just watch which fish you color, which direction. And you can color them any way you want. You can color them with anything you want. You can use them the way they are. You could just color them in with pencil. You could do colored pencil. You can color them with markers. You could color them with acrylic paints, although this is, if you're using real thin paper, you'll have to be careful with that. Now, I would caution you a little bit about using watercolor, because when you do another step we have later on of putting Mod Podge on, that can reactivate your watercolors and kind of make a muddy mess. So you probably should, at this point, just stick to colored pencils, markers, something like that. So, next to this video somewhere, there should be a link where you can go to our Fuzzy Duckling site and download the string of fish patterns. And just feel free to do that. And that's one of the first things you'll want to do, is either draw your fish or download these patterns. And then you will, once your decorative paper, if that's what you choose to do, is to back them with something on one side that can either just be pretty or you can write on it. Say maybe one of your fishies will have "This book belongs to," and whatever your name is. Or I would suggest, if you're a Sunday school teacher and you want a craft for your Sunday school class, you could have them write the verse that Jesus said, "Be fishers of men," and put the verse reference. There's lots of things you can do with this craft. You will want a piece of cardboard. Whoops. Oh, that just tells you. Just get a piece of cardboard off of a cereal box if you want. It's usually nice, strong cardboard. I keep a lot of my food container boxes all cut up, ready to use for great cardboard. Why go buy it when you've already bought it, right? So, piece of cardboard. You will need some type of string. There are so many different things you could use here that it's endless. You could use some baker's twine. This is to hook your fish onto your book, basically. You could use twine. Oh, here's some elastic stuff, ribbon, yarn. I'm actually going to use a little bit of very skinny pieces of leather I found in my craft supplies. Just about anything you could scare up will work there. You will want something that attaches your bookmark to your book. And let's talk about that real quick, because there's several things you could do. Now, a lot of you may use your bookmark on a notebook like this. And there's not real easy ways to attach things to notebooks, but you know what? There's two good ways right here. I love these great big jumbo paper clips. Now, mine has some stuff stuck to it. That's all right. You probably will have to go to an office store or Amazon to find these, but these are very neat. And you can attach your string of fish to something like this, and then you attach it to your notebook. And your string of fish, when it's all done here, we'll show you how they go on again, is right there. There's no harm. You can take it on and off. But you know an option I even like better, although it's not as strong, and these you can usually get at Target or Walmart, stores like that, are these little circular paper clips. And they're not only handy to put your string of fish on your book, they're actually cute when they sit on the outside. It looks like some kind of, well, you just designed this on purpose to look very neat. Now I'm having trouble putting it on here. To look very neat sitting on your book. So you could have these. You could use one of these. You can even use a plain old paper clip if you want. Now I wouldn't suggest one maybe this small because there's not a lot of strength in this. You might get by with this. And there's other fasteners that you might have laying around the house that would be good. But it just needs to be something that'll attach onto different kind of books. Now, here's a school book. This might really be where you'll want to use it because usually you want to mark different spots. Again, we could use this. And with some school books, you can just slip this down the back, push it all the way down. Although I would worry or be a little careful with that because that's where I got a lot of the glue on this paper clip. And if it's not your book, you probably won't want to force that. But this round one will still work just great. Look at that. And then your string of fish come right off of there. This is one of my favorite ways to do this. It's optional, but if you want, you could also have a split ring. These I got at Walmart. This is a container with different sizes in it. It can be put on a split ring, and then you can change these things around according to what book you want to fasten your string of fish to. And this will all make more sense after you've made your string. Let's see, what else do you need? That's about it, except, of course, a pair of scissors. Mod Podge. There's all different kinds of Mod Podges out there. Some that just give a matte finish, some give a shiny finish. This one actually gives it kind of a yellow vintage feel, which is what I'm going to use on my fish. You can use any kind you want. And you'll need an old brush to use with the Mod Podge. Now, I may have missed something, but we'll let you know about it as we move through this project. Okay. Step number 1. Color your fishies in. Look at this. I've got all my fishies colored in. These two are for the same fishy. Eat one for each side of that little fishy. So are these. This is going to make one fish. Now on this one, I'm going to back this fish with this pretty bright paper. And I'm going to back this fish with this pretty purple paper. If you can see that, there we go. So altogether, I'll have 4 fishies. Now you can reprint this as many times as you want to get as many fishies if you want. That's going to be up to you. You can have whatever amount of fishies you want on this bookmark. That's going to be entirely up to you. Now, I don't know if you can see it well or not. Do you see how my little fishies have some shine to them? I couldn't resist. After I colored him in with my markers, I put some glitter glue on the dots. I have a weakness for glitter and glitter glue. So all of my fishies, if it shows there, I think it may have some dots of glitter glue. If you do put glitter glue on, be careful. I would suggest you put that on and let it dry overnight so that when we do our next steps, you just don't paint them right off with Mod Podge. All right, next step is we need to glue the one side of our fish to cardboard, not both sides, because if we have 2 layers of cardboard, it's going to get awful thick and awful hard to cut out. So this is the front of 3 fish for me, and this will be the front. So I'm not going to what we call fussy cut, where we go around every edge. I'm just going to generally cut these fish out like this. And then we are going to glue them onto our cardboard. Now I am going to use Mod Podge. You may have something else in your craft supplies that you want to use there. But I really like Mod Podge, and that is what I am going to be using on my fishies. Okay, I want to get the front of this fishy. The backs I'm not going to do yet. I'm going to lay them aside, and we'll work on them later. All right. Get our trash out of here. It's always handy to have some kind of trash container close when you're crafting. There we go. Now here's all the fronts of my fish. I want to be sure I have enough cardboard here for all of them. And you know, but it won't matter which side I glue to. We're going to glue our fishies on here. And look, I can just fit them all. That's just perfect. Now I'm going to show you how I glue the first one, and then I will glue the rest of them off camera. There's no reason you have to watch me putting glue on. And then I will let it dry and be back with you. So, I'm using the Vintage Antique Mod Podge because I want these to look old. So I'm going to come here on the back of my fishy, just like glue. And basically Mod Podge is a glue that has a few things added to it to make them shiny or colored or whatever. Be sure you don't leave any spots that don't have glue on them or you'll get bubbles. And I mean where the fish is. And with this thin paper, I can see where my fishy is. I don't have to Mod Podge clear out to the edge where my fishy isn't. But where my fishy is, I need to be sure it's well covered. So now I'm going to flip this little guy over. Put him down. And since I have sparkles on there, I have to rub kind of gently. In fact, sometimes when you have something like that, ooh, and see, I'm going to get wrinkles if I'm not. It's wet. Let me see if I can pull that out. There we go. Try to be careful and not do what I just did there. Now, since I have sparkles, I don't want to rub too hard on them. So I'm going to put a scrap piece of paper down there and then rub through the scrap piece of paper so I'm not rubbing my glitter off. It might even be a good idea to put the glitter on after this step. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see if this will work. There we go. Now I'm going to smooth his head out a little here. You know, if you make some mistakes or get some wrinkles, don't let it discourage you. Just keep going. It's still going to turn out much better than you think it will. See how he's smoothed out there? All right, now back to gluing the others, and I'll be back with you in a few. Now, when we have him all glued down, the next step is to Mod Podge the top of these fishies. So come along, and let's Mod Podge our fish. Now this Mod Podge is going to make your fishy look messy, but it will dry clear or shiny or whatever it's supposed to do with the kind you're using. Now mostly I do use just the matte finish of Mod Podge, but if I want something to look antique and vintage, this one will do that. It will give it a slight yellowed appearance, like it's really old. So be sure you cover the whole of your fishy. Now this is the first coat of probably 3 we'll put on here before we're done, because we want our fishy to withstand a lot of wear and tear. And believe me, coming in and out of your books, these are going to get a lot of wear and tear. There we go. Now we need to set these little guys aside to dry, and you want them to dry thoroughly before you move on. So while these are drying, you will need to clean out your brush, close your Mod Podge up, and try not to get Mod Podge around that top edge. If you have any plastic wrap that you use in the kitchen, this is a good place to put it when you shut this so it doesn't glue your lid shut. So I'm going to go clean my brush and set this aside to dry, and then we'll show you the next steps. Okay, I have my brush all clean. These are still wet, but you know, while I'm waiting for them to dry, I could work on the backs of my 2 fish. And what we need to do then is cut them out. And we need to do what we call the fussy cut, where we follow the outline as close as we can. Sometimes a smaller pair of scissors is easier for this. Just try your scissors out and see what ones work the best for you. So I have 2 fishies that are the backs of my fishies. So while that's drying, I'm going to cut these out, and you may want to do the same thing. So we'll be back in a few after we've done that. All right, I have my 2 fish backs all cut out here. And we're going to set them aside for a little while now and check my fish where the Mod Podge was drying. Now, you may wonder how you can tell. I'm going to get this close here and see. Can you see these streaks that are still in there? And when I touch them, it still sticks to my fingers. I put this on fairly heavy, and it's not dry yet. And as long as you see those cloudy streaks, it's not dry enough to work with. So I'm going to have to lay mine down a while and let them dry a while longer. And you know, this could take up to probably another half an hour. Now you could use your heat gun or hair dryer or something to speed it up. But you know, sometimes this is just the time to lay them down, go get a snack, a drink of water, a Coke, something like that. And just let those sit there and marinate for a while. So that is what I'm going to do. I am going to go get a drink and let these dry a little more. Okay, I'm back after making a big old pitcher of cold iced tea. And that was just the right amount of time. Now that these have dried, we need to cut them out. And this might be a little hard on the hands depending on how strong you are, because you have to cut through this cardboard. If you have to go get someone else in the family to do this for you, don't feel bad. Some of us older people with arthritis and some of us younger people with little fingers might need some help. So this is a fussy cut job, which is going to make this a little harder yet, but you know, it really isn't bad. You just have to have some patience. So just like all these other times, this is kind of a project where you do a lot of waiting on other things. You wait for it to dry, and you wait for it to be cut out, and you wait and wait and wait. But eventually you'll have a neat craft. So I'm going to finish cutting these out. And again, I'll be back with you in a few. Well, here we are back again. Look at this pile of fish. You know, I was just thinking as I was looking at these, if you have a fisherman in the family, or you like fishing, wouldn't these make cute tree decorations at Christmas time? Make up 20 or 30 of those and hang them on the tree. I think that'd be so cute. Or tags on a gift. You could back this with some pretty paper and write your to, from on the back of that and attach that to your ribbon that is on your gift. Wouldn't that be cute? Especially if you were giving fishing supplies to someone. Well, all right. I have everything cut out here. These are my cardboard ones. And then here are my 2 backs that we just cut out that aren't glued to anything. Now, before we glue the backs on all these fishies, though, we need to attach the strings that they will hang from. So I would suggest, if you're going to use a split ring, this is the time to use it. Maybe you could use a small key ring, or who knows what you have in your stash, but you need a little ring. And I have 2 pieces of threads, whatever you want to call those, strings. I'm going to have 4 fish on here, so you'll need a piece of string for every 2 fish. And I'm just going to put those through my little ring, and then these can attach to my paper clips or whatever else it is I want to use, and I can change them around easily. Now, you don't have to do that. You could attach this directly to the clip you're going to use and skip this step. All right. My strings right now are about 14 inches long. That's probably much longer than you're going to need. Yeah, much longer. But at this point, I want to give a knot right here to hold them in place, which might be easier said than done. Here we go. This might be easier if you got someone to hold that little ring for you while you did that. But there we go. Got it knotted. Now we have an end here for attaching each of my 4 fishies. Now this will be attached to this, which is also going to be attached to the back of my book. And it may depend on what you think you're going to be using these for, how long you want to make these strings. Now I'm going to take that clear to my center there. There we go. You might try to get that to straddle 2 wires so it won't come off in the middle. Or you can take your pliers and squeeze that shut. Now I'm going to put this on my notebook and see how long I feel like I need this. Here we go. When you're totally done, you may want to clamp some of this with some pliers, but don't do that till you're totally done. And I want my fishies to attach and hang down. So we actually only want about that length, and then we need to have room to glue it. So I would say about that length. Let's cut it right there. Let me get my ruler and I'll tell you how long that is. I have this 3.5 inches going on 4 inches. Now, you can do it however you want, however long you want it. So I'm going to cut all of these at the same spot. And now I want to start putting my fishies on before I put the back on. I want to glue this down before I put the fish back on, so that when I glue this on, it covers it up and makes it look like the string is coming out of his mouth. So Our next step will be to glue these ends on. Now I'm going to take this on off of this pink clip here. I'm going to use some Aleene's tacky glue here to fasten my end down. Might have to hold on to that for a few seconds until it's stuck down. We're going to do that with all of the fronts of our fishies. And lay your two backs aside there. Okay, and while you have that laid down, find the back of that fish. I believe this one is it. Yes. And we want to glue that down. So let's get the Mod Podge back out. And here we go. I'm going to cover the whole back of this fishy here. Now you might find that you can do this in a different order that's handier for you. You do this however is comfortable for you to do it. Carefully place the back on your fishy. Line up the edges as well as you can. Don't panic too much if there's a few little spots showing, because we're going to work on that a little bit later. But as close as you can will save you time later on. There, you see how we have him on both sides? Now I want to put my other fish over on one of these others. So get the glue here. Let's Mod Podge the back. Parts of this is fairly messy because of the glue and the Mod Podge. That's just sometimes a part of doing art or projects. A lot of it's messy. And that is okay. It's part of the fun, and it's get messy. Be sure and cover this well so you don't have bubbles. Now take the other side, the back side. Oh, well, I did it with one of them that I don't have a back side ready for. But you know what we're going to do? Let's get this back down there. I wasn't watching close enough. This is a piece that's going to have a piece of pink paper on the back. So let's just go ahead and lay our piece of backing paper on there. Be sure it covers your whole fishy. There we go. Press that down, and then when that dries, we can cut out around the fishy. And I'm going to move that up so that's coming out of his mouth. Now these two guys need to dry. Now, if you can get the other lines down here, let's put on our other fishy that I thought I was putting on a while ago. And we need to let those dry good. So another time we need to let that set a few minutes, so I'll be back with you again. Okay, I'm back. I have cut one of these fish out and have the second one to do. Now, I will tell you something. It's a little difficult cutting and working on fish while they're attached to the string. It can be done. I'm doing it. But it isn't all that easy. If you want to make it easier on yourself, have each fish on a separate string that ties up here separately, but then you're going to have 4 knots up here, which is something I didn't want to have. So I'm doing it this a little harder way to keep from having that. So that's entirely up to you if you want to do it a little bit easier. Now, it was hard to cut this out. It looks a little rough right now, but I think by the time we're done with it, it will be fine. So, this is the last one, and what you just need to do is hold on to that fishy, even though he's on the string, and just cut out around the edges. In fact, it helps a little if you get a lot of this excess off right away. You could also go ahead and trace the fish on this paper and cut it out before you glue it on. Now this is a little time consuming. And you have to be careful, but it can be done. A lot of crafts. It just requires a lot of patience. There we go. Have all of our fish all cut out. If you notice, I have 4 of my fish Mod Podged on one side. And I said in the beginning we will be putting 2 or 3 coats on. So there's a lot of podging and waiting and podging and waiting. So we need to turn these guys over and Mod Podge the back sides next. And yes, there's some rough little pieces, and we're actually going to kind of file them off. Let's put a layer of Mod Podge on before we do this. So wipe your brush down if you've been keeping it in water, and let's Mod Podge these back sides, and then we'll have to let them dry. So this might be another break where you go get a snack. Eat a lot while we craft, right? Well, now my fishies are dry on both sides. All my Mod Podge has dried. Now, there's one more step here we need to do before we finish with the Mod Podging. And if you look at some of your fishies closely, you're going to see rough edges and white edges. I just hate the look of these rough white edges on my fishies. And here's something you can do. You can get you a piece of sandpaper, or what I like to use is a nail file. These are just the right shape, easy to hold on to. And go around and file these edges, believe it or not. Of course, I like to have the vintage look. And this kind of helps that vintage look out too. But go around and file down the rough edges. Now it's okay if this white shows. We're going to do something about that. And if you find any little edges that aren't laying down right, now is the time to fix it. Now, there's something else I really don't like, is these white edges. And what do you do about that? Well, there's one or two things you can do. Now, I have this distress ink and a dauber. And the way I take care of it is to go around the edges with ink. Now, this is a vintage photo color, which makes things look antique-y. And it also covers up that white edge. Now, you may not have this, but one thing you could do is to get your marker. And if you have a marker the color of your fishy, go along the edges with the tip of your marker, and that will cover up the white. It won't give it the vintage look that this ink does, but maybe you didn't aim for the vintage look to begin with. And this kind of finishes off the edges of your fishy. Okay, do that to all 4 of your fishies. Now, in looking at these, I have to admit, between the ones with just the paper back and the ones that had the other fishy back, I like these that have the fishy on 2 sides the best. But, you know, it's entirely up to you, because if you want to write on one, then you'll need to have a piece of paper that you can write on. All right, we're all done, except for adding more Mod Podge. And they look good the way they are, but the reason we're going to add more Mod Podge is to give them strength, so that they don't fall apart the first time you use them. So, my suggestion is that you give each of these, both sides, 2 more coats of Mod Podge, because we only have 1 coat on there. So I am going to coat these, let them dry, and then I will be back with you with the finished product. All right, all dry and finished. Here is my string of fish ready to go into my book. Ah, these cute little fishies. So let's just stick these guys in my textbook here. I'm going to put my round clip right here in the back of my book. We can carry them around like this when they're not in. Let's stick them in a page. Okay, we're going to assume I need to study that page for my test. Oh, and there's another answer to a question I know will be on it. Oh my goodness, we're just getting along here. And there we go. I have 4 places bookmarked with my string of fish and knock. Isn't that neat? And then when I need to open them up, here we go. There was my first one, second one, third one, fourth one. Isn't that handy? A fantastic way to bookmark books, calendars, notebooks, whatever you'd like to bookmark with, and then you can take it out and move it to another book or make several. All right, thank you for being with us today to make a string of fish. I hope you've enjoyed it. And be sure and come back for our next project. That will be projects in October, Halloween month. All right, bye-bye for now.